G'day, ZiggyD here, back with another Hearthstone guide. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys a beginner's introduction and analysis of the hero powers. So I'm going to be breaking down each one of the hero powers, what they do, how useful they are on the grand scale of things, and in which situations they're useful and in which situations they're not. So let's jump straight into it with the warrior. The warrior deck is pretty interesting. You get a lot of weapons that you can use and you can deal a lot of big damage to the enemy hero and enemy minions. Armor up for the warrior gives your hero 2 armor. Now the interesting thing about this is essentially it's buffing your health, and you can't overcap your health. So if you're at 30 health and use armor up, you will go to 32 effective hit points. So you can build yourself up a bit of advantage if you're able to armor up frequently throughout the match. Now another important use for armor up is when you equip a weapon to your hero using a weapon card, armoring up allows you to swing at a minion without really taking too much damage, or at least, staying about where you are. So for example, if there's a 2/1 minion on the board that you want to get rid of, and it's a good idea to get rid of minions pretty quickly, armoring up will let you take that 2 damage without losing any actual life, just that armor. Sure, it's still effective life, but it gives you that buffer without, falling behind a little bit in hero health. So it's reasonably powerful. That overall, it's not too useful a hero power. That's the main situation where it's useful, and the other situations where it's useful is just for giving you a bit of extra buffer room. Sometimes you might need an extra 2 health to be able to survive a round of attacks, so that you can maybe claw your way back into a match later on, or you can keep buffing it up over time and have a little bit of extra hero health pool. But overall, it's not too useful a hero power in the grand scale of things. I rank this as probably one of the worst hero powers, one of the least useful at least. Next up, we have the Shaman. Now, the Shaman's hero power summons a random totem. So at 2 mana cost, you get a random totem. Now these totems include a taunt totem. That's a 0/2 taunt totem. So this is great for giving yourself a bit of board control, and sometimes you're really hoping for a taunt and you don't have any taunt cards. You play a random totem and you have a 1 in 4 chance of getting it, and you get that taunt totem, and it can save you from losing an essential minion or from taking some hero damage. So that's pretty handy. Another totem it can get is a healing totem, which at the end of every turn heals you 1 hit point. Heals everything on the board, on your side of the board, including your hero, 1 hit point. That's a very powerful totem, and having one of those on the board for a long time behind a couple of powerful taunts can really assist in maintaining control. And the next totem is a 1/1 totem that can essentially attack. It's a flame totem. That's useful. That's semi-useful. It's just good to have a bit of extra damage on the board. If you have that on the board, you can swing at some other minions that maybe only have 1 life and take those out, or you can just deal a little bit of extra damage. Probably the least useful of all of the totems. And then the other totem is a spell damage totem, which you put that on the board. It gives you +1 spell power. All of your spells do 1 damage. That's really useful in Shaman decks where you have a lot of spells going on, but there are a lot of Shaman decks that don't have any or very few spells going on as well. So in that case, that totem is pretty useless. So it's a bit of a gamble. The Totemic call is a bit of a gamble overall, but it is a very powerful hero power. In the grand scheme of things, I would say probably one of the best ones. Essentially, the fact that you can put a bunch of totems out on the board every turn, you can put a totem out pretty much if you have the mana crystals to do so, means you can gain board control, and it can quickly spiral out of control for your opponent. You can very quickly get a full board as a Shaman and then play something like a Bloodlust, which gives +3 damage to all of your minions on your side of the board, and you can deal a lot of damage on that turn when you play that Bloodlust. When you have just a board full of totems, you could have a board full of 0/2 taunt totems, play Bloodlust, and deal a crap ton of damage. So it's very useful. Your opponent has to be very active about killing off the totems that you summon. So very cool hero power, and pretty beginner friendly as well. I think the Shaman overall is pretty beginner friendly deck and hero. So if you're a beginner, you might want to jump in and play those a bit. It's also really fun. I have to say, it's one of the most fun hero powers. Next up is the Rogue. The Rogue's hero power equips a 1/2 dagger. This is a dagger that deals 1 damage and has 2 durability. What this means is you can deal 1 damage per turn for 2 turns before the dagger dies. Now, it also has a secondary power that gives you +1 on your currently equipped weapon. So you can play this, give yourself a 1/2 dagger, then on the next turn, you can play Dagger Mastery again, and you'll do 2 damage on that one turn. So that's great if you need to swing at a minion that has 2 hit points, take a little bit of hero damage yourself, but clear that minion off the board. And clearing minions off the board quickly, as I mentioned with the warrior, is essential. You know, having that potential damage limited is really a really good idea. Now, just the 1/2 dagger as well, even without buffing it, can be really handy for early board control, and of course it can be used to attack the enemy hero. The thing about the rogue is you essentially are trading your hero life to maintain board control, to gain board control, or to prevent your opponent from getting too many minions on the board, too much damage on the board. So you exchange taking a hit from an enemy minion. So there's a 2/1 Murloc on the board. You want to get rid of that early on. You don't want it to deal too many attacks to you. Then you take that out. You take that 2 points of damage, but you kill it with your basic dagger. Now, an interesting point is the rogue has a lot of things like poison in its deck that it can apply to the daggers to give extra power, though she also has other weapon cards. If you play a weapon card when you already have your daggers out, you will replace your current daggers with the weapon card. As I recently learned, that's an interesting fact. But overall, it's a very powerful hero ability that comes with a bit of a cost. Essentially, you are paying that 2 mana to be able to have 2 turns worth of attack, but the damage is only 1 per turn. When we compare that to something like the Hunter, which deals 2 damage per turn, that doesn't seem so great. And the fact that you also have to take damage each time you attack a minion with this, you're separating that damage out. But the fact that you can buff the daggers up is what really pushes it over the edge. Gives you a lot of utilities, a lot of different things you can do with the daggers. Not too beginner friendly. It takes a while to learn when you should be using daggers, when you should be activating them and not using them, when you should be buffing them. It takes a bit of experience, as the rogue deck does overall, but still a very fun hero power to play with. The Paladin has a hero power that gives a 1/1 minion on the board every time you play it. Similar to the Shaman, but with less variance. You always get that 1/1 Silverhand recruit. There's no variety there. Now, overall, it's a moderately powerful hero ability. I rank it somewhere in the middle, and it can be these 1/1 recruits can be used as buff targets. You can throw one down on the board, play some buff cards, and Uther does have a lot of powerful buffing cards and deal a lot of damage, at the cost of a free minion, essentially, just a 2 mana minion that doesn't cost a card, so that can be pretty handy. You can use those to take out very powerful enemy minions. Say, for example, there is like a 5/5 minion on the board. You can throw down a Reinforce on the next turn. It's often not something that the enemy will target, so it'll stay on the board. On the next turn, you can throw down some buffs on it, get it up to 5/1, and then attack the enemy minion. Or you can even throw a health and a taunt on it or something like that to turn it into a taunt minion. It's a good buff target, and overall they can also be a general nuisance. Having a couple of these guys on the board can just annoy your opponent, slowly poke at them, deal a little bit of hero damage. As I said, moderately powerful hero ability, has some interesting synergies when you start looking at the buffing cards. But overall, not too many other things to be said about it. It's pretty basic. It just gives you a 1/1 minion. The Hunter has one of the most powerful seeming hero abilities when you first start playing the game, and when I first started, I had to say I thought it was ridiculously powerful, but the more you play the game, you realize it's not actually that handy, because it's very limited in what it can actually give you. Steady Shot deals 2 direct damage to the enemy hero. This bypasses all taunts, and pretty much nothing can stop it. The only thing that can be done to mitigate it, or correct its effects, is to armor up as the warrior, or heal as the priest, or do something like that, play a heal card, or give your hero some armor to recover the, to buff out your hero health anyway. But this doesn't have too many uses. Like, you can't use this on a minion, you can't use this to gain board control, you can't use it to maintain board control. All it does is deal direct burn damage. Now that's okay. You have to kill the enemy hero to win in Hearthstone, but often the best way to kill and the most effective way to kill is to get that board control and be able to put those minions out. Especially since the Hunter is very beast heavy, has a lot of beast synergy. Board control is pretty important for the Hunter. You want to get those beasts out, you want to keep those beasts out, you want to keep those buzzards giving you cards, you want to, keep summoning your beasts and keep them alive and keep attacking with them, and Steady Shot does nothing to help that. The only things that Steady Shot are really helpful for are against the Rogue and Warlock. As I mentioned, the Rogue has to sacrifice her life to attack your minions, and since you have a lot of beast minions out of life, often ones with low life, the Rogue has to sacrifice some of her life to be able to attack your minions. If you're dealing a lot of direct burn damage to the Rogue, she has less life to play with and is less inclined to attack your minions, and simply won't be able to beyond a certain point. So it can be good for managing how often the Rogue can actually attack your minions. The other use is for against the Warlock. The Warlock trades his life for card advantage, and if you can reduce his life as much as possible, he gets less card advantage. Pretty basic stuff, but we'll talk about that a bit more with the Warlock. But that's a good way for managing both the Warlock and the Rogue. Against everyone else, it's just basic damage and doesn't help too much. The Druid is a very powerful hero ability. I rank it somewhere maybe in the top 3. It seems, pretty basic. It seems just like the Rogue essentially. You get one attack, but you only get it for one turn, so it's a bit less powerful in terms of attacking power than the Rogue. But you also get 1 armor whenever you cast it. Now the +1 attack is for this turn only, so you have to use it on that turn. And the +1 armor lasts forever essentially until you get attacked. So every time you play, you can either just play this just to buff up your hero's health a little bit. That's obviously not a great deal, but if you have to spend 2 mana and you don't want to attack, you can't attack because there's a taunt minion on the board or something like that, then it's just a way to get +1 hero health essentially. But that's about on par with the Warrior in terms of usefulness, not particularly useful. But when it comes to attacking enemy minions, this is really, really handy. So you can essentially arm yourself up, arm yourself up, arm yourself up, attack a 3/1 minion, take no damage because you've got that 3 armor from those 3 turns of buffing up, and you can kill that minion. Or there's 1/1 minions on the board, or 2/1 minions on the board. You can attack them when you use this hero ability, with only taking 0 or 1 damage or something like that to your actual health pool. So it gives you an incredible way to get board control and to keep board control against weaker minions. It's really, really good. And of course it can be used to deal direct burn damage to your opponent. So it's an incredible hero ability. Very, very, very powerful. But and overall, the Druid deck is a pretty well balanced deck as well. Has some pretty good potential, pretty reasonably beginner friendly, and although Shapeshift requires a bit of fortitude to use, taking hero damage is always a little bit makes newer players a little bit nervous. I certainly know that myself, and having that armor can help with that a little bit. So pretty beginner friendly, very powerful ability overall. I quite like it. Next up is the Warlock. Warlock is pretty interesting. The Warlock is all about self-sacrifice to gain a lot of power, and Life Tap is all about that. You get to draw 1 card when you cast this ability. Card advantage is huge in these games. In collectible card games, trading card games, having extra cards in your hands means you have answers. You have answers for your opponent. You can control the pace of the game. Obviously, being able to draw 1 extra card per turn is very powerful. However, this does come at a cost. It costs 2 mana, of course, but it also costs 2 life damage. Now, as I mentioned, if you're taking a lot of life damage from enemy heroes, you can't use this too often. But in the early game, and when you're not too worried about taking life, you can use this to get a bunch of cards and get a really strong early game advantage, or you can use it to pull out, try and pull out a crucial card a little bit later on. If you have some heals in your deck, obviously you can keep this going for longer, and a lot of Warlock decks do play with some heals in their deck to keep their hero life up so they can keep drawing those cards, and that often gives you some minions on the board and things like that. Some of the Warlock spells double as attacking spells and healing spells. There's one that deals 2 damage and heals you 1 damage as well, so you can keep that going a little bit longer. Use that extra 2 life to get yourself a bit more card advantage. Can't say too much about this. I'm still trying to explore it out a bit. It's an interesting one. There's more potential. You can use this in things like Murloc decks to get a lot of card advantage early on, to be able to really pump out those Murlocs when taking a bit of hero damage in the early game when you're going for a rush, turn 5 kill or something like that. Anyway, isn't a big deal. So pretty powerful. I rank that somewhere in the middle, but it's hard to use. Sometimes it's not powerful. It's not too useful in all games, but has some potential in certain builds and in certain other games. The Mage one is very, very powerful. It deals 1 damage, so it can be used as 1 damage, burn damage against your enemy hero. That's weaker than Hunter, obviously. Hunter deals 2 damage, but the Mage trades 1 damage per turn for the ability to target anything. And I mean anything, even your own minions. Why the hell would you want to target your own minions? Well, some minions enrage when they take damage. So you have something like, there's a taunt that also has a range that gives +3 attack when it takes damage. So it has 5 life, you ping it for 1 damage, it takes 1 damage, not a big deal. And it gains +3 attack. You can use that to attack the enemy hero, you can use that to take out a powerful card on the board. Gurubashi Berserkers start off at 2/7, 2 damage, 7 life. Every time they take any amount of damage, they gain 3+ attack. You can ping your own Gurubashi Berserker with This, bring it down to 6 life and give it 5 attack. Incredible way to buff up your own minions, and you can combine that with some heals. It can also be used to pick off enemy minions that have gotten down to 1 health or that only have 1 health to begin with, and of course it can be used as burn damage against your opponents to manage their activities a little bit. But overall it's really good because you can use it so, so creatively. You can use it also through things like, you can polymorph an opponent's card, cast Fireblast to finish it off. It's a cool power, and it really suits Jaina as well with all of her burn damage in her in her deck, all of the direct damage spell cards she has. Fireblast makes a lot of sense. It's a really cool ability. You start off with the Mage. I'd say moderately beginner friendly. It takes a little bit to be able to learn all of the ways in which you can use Fireblast, but overall it's not too complicated, and a very powerful hero ability. One of the top 3, I would say. Next up is the Priest. Overall, somewhere near the bottom in terms of usefulness. I really like the Priest. It's a really strong and constructed play. But heal, honestly, only gives you 2 things. It gives you a way to maintain control, so you can heal your minions that are taking damage, either from your opponents or say you're swinging, and then you can heal back up to keep your minions at full life. And it can be used to gain card advantage when you play things like Northshire Clerics. Northshire Clerics have a card power, that whenever you heal a minion on the board, or whenever a minion is healed on the board, you gain extra card draw. So essentially you can swing with one of your minions, take damage, heal it up, and get a card all in that same turn. And that's a pretty powerful way to use it, or as I said, just to maintain control. The reason why this isn't as useful as some of the other hero powers is it can't be really used to get control of the board. If you don't have any powerful minions on the board, heal's pretty useless. If you have low life minions on the board, heal's pretty useless. Most things will kill them in one shot anyway. So it can't really be used to gain gain board advantage, gain board control. But it can be used to maintain it once you do have it, and it suits the Priest, obviously. I would say moderately beginner-friendly deck overall, and pretty fun. I enjoy it overall. But and it can also be used to mana heal your opponent in turn 2 if you don't have any cards to play, just for the lols. Anyway, hopefully this has been a pretty interesting look and analysis and overall summary of the hero powers. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.